sun had just begun its climb over the city skyline, spilling golden light across the sleek glass towers and busy streets when I found myself standing at the edge of the corporate courtyard, heart pounding as though it wanted to leap out of my chest. I had spent months watching, learning, struggling to prove myself in a company where every glance seemed measured and every word judged. Today, however, was different. Today, my boss, the enigmatic and intimidating Mr. Victor Harlow, had made an offer that no one would dare take lightly. "If you beat me in the race," he had said, his smirk both mocking and daring, "I'll reward you." Without thinking, without a second for my mind to catch up with my courage, I had looked him square in the eye and replied, "Anything I want." The corners of his mouth lifted just slightly, an expression that didn't betray whether he thought I was foolish or bold. I didn't care which it was. The challenge was set, and suddenly, the world felt electric with possibility. My name is Clara Bennett, and for most of my life, I had been the girl who quietly endured, who worked late nights, who swallowed pride to survive. But something in me ignited that morning. A spark that refused to let the fear of losing stop me from trying. Before the race, though, life didn't wait for my courage to catch up. My mornings had always started with the sound of the coffee machine sputtering, the hiss of milk steaming, and the quiet despair of an apartment that was too small for my dreams. I watched the sunlight creep through the half-open blinds, illuminating dust motes dancing lazily in the air. In that light, I often felt my own insignificance, a young woman in a city that rewarded ruthlessness over effort, speed over heart. But today, everything felt different. I could feel the tension building in my muscles, the quickening pulse of anticipation. I knew that to win, I would need more than speed. I would need heart, determination, and an unshakable belief in myself. The courtyard was already buzzing when I arrived. Employees who normally ignored me gave quick, curious glances. I saw the gleam of Mr. Harlow's tailored shoes as he stretched, a picture of effortless power. He was always so imposing, a man whose presence could silence a room, yet here he was, daring me to challenge him, to step into a world where only the strong thrived. I could almost feel the invisible barriers of the corporate hierarchy, the whispers of my colleagues who assumed I would never win. I clenched my fists, tasting the familiar bitterness of doubt, and then shook it off. I had a chance to rewrite my story. The race began at the stroke of 10. The morning air was crisp, scented faintly with the city's early traffic and blooming flowers from the nearby planters. Victor shot me a look, a silent question lingering in his gaze. I gave a subtle nod, and suddenly we were off. My legs pumped furiously, muscles burning, lungs heaving, as the city blurred around me. At first, he pulled ahead effortlessly, his long strides devouring the asphalt, his expression calm and composed. Every instinct in me screamed to give up, to slow down, to let him win and survive another day in the same predictable rut. But something deeper within me, the sum of every disappointment, every insult, every late night spent doubting myself, kept driving me forward. Halfway through, my vision narrowed to the stretch of road ahead. I could hear the rhythmic slap of shoes against concrete, feel my heart hammering like a drum in my chest. Memories flashed past. My younger brother's tear-streaked face when I had failed to protect him from bullies. My mother's gentle voice telling me to never let anyone tell me I wasn't enough. The countless nights I had lain awake imagining a life where courage mattered more than circumstance. With each memory, my legs moved faster, my breath steadier. I wasn't just running against Victor Harlow. I was running against every doubt that had ever tried to cage me. By the time we reached the final stretch, a narrow, sunlit alley flanked by towering buildings, I could feel my energy draining. Sweat stung my eyes, my lungs screamed for air, and yet there was something magical in the struggle. I wasn't just racing for a reward, I was racing for myself, for the person I had always wanted to become. Victor glanced back, his usually impervious expression flickering with surprise. Something about my relentless determination seemed to shake him, if only for a moment. That flicker of doubt was all I needed. Summoning every ounce of strength, I pushed harder, my feet pounding against the ground like a heartbeat, cinched with destiny itself. And then, suddenly, I was past him. The alley ended, sunlight spilling over the final meters, and I crossed the imaginary finish line with a triumphant gasp. My chest heaved, and my legs trembled, but in that moment it didn't matter. Victor stopped just behind me. his normally confident posture frozen for an instant that seemed to stretch forever. Then, almost imperceptibly, he smiled, a rare, genuine smile that seemed almost human. "You've earned it," he said, his voice low, carrying the weight of grudging respect. "Anything you want, Clara." I paused, the city noise fading around me, and I let the enormity of the moment settle. For years, I had wanted recognition, opportunity, validation, but as I looked into his eyes, I realized there was something far more valuable. I wanted change. I wanted a chance to prove that I could rise above circumstance, that courage could rewrite the rules of a life that had often felt predetermined. "I want a chance to lead a project of my choosing," I said finally, my voice steady, despite the lingering tremor of adrenaline. "I want to create something meaningful, something that matters not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been overlooked." Victor studied me silently for a long moment, then nodded. "Done. You'll lead the Greenfield Initiative. It's the biggest challenge we've had in years, but I think you're ready." The days that followed were nothing short of transformative. The project was a behemoth of complexity and expectation, a test of every skill I had honed over years of quiet struggle. My team, initially skeptical, slowly rallied behind me as they saw the fire in my eyes, the relentless drive that refused to falter. Each morning brought new challenges. Supplier delays, budget constraints, technical failures, but each evening also brought small victories, the incremental proof that perseverance was more powerful than fear. I found myself growing in ways I had never imagined, discovering strengths hidden beneath layers of self-doubt and exhaustion. But the true test came when the first major presentation to the board loomed. My team had poured everything into the proposal, yet I felt the familiar tug of anxiety creeping in. The night before, I sat alone in my apartment, watching the city lights flicker like stars against the darkness, and questioned whether I was ready. Memories of the race surged back. That heartbeat of triumph and fear intertwined, and I realized the lesson I had learned. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the choice to move forward despite it. The next morning, the boardroom was a cathedral of glass and polished wood, executives seated like judges, their expressions neutral, their expectation invisible but palpable. I stepped forward, heart racing but voice unwavering, and began to speak. Each word was deliberate, each gesture grounded in confidence, each idea a testament to the journey that had brought me here. As I spoke, I noticed subtle nods, small smiles, eyes lighting up with interest. My team's faith bolstered me, and by the end of the presentation, applause filled the room. Not loud, not theatrical, but steady, meaningful, the kind of acknowledgement that lingers in your chest long after the sound fades. Victor approached me afterward, his hand firm on my shoulder. "You did well, Clara," he said simply. There was no smirk this time, no teasing, only respect. "This is just the beginning." I exhaled, the tension of months unraveling in a long, freeing breath. And in that release, I realized something profound: the race, the challenge, the reward. They had all been catalysts for something far greater. I had found belief in myself, courage I hadn't known existed, and the knowledge that sometimes the boldest step is simply daring to say anything I want. Before the story moves on, if you believe in the power of kindness, second chances, and daring to take risks, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Touch of Kindness. Your support helps bring more stories that inspire and uplift to everyone seeking a spark of hope. The weeks turned into months, and the Greenfield Initiative blossomed under my leadership. I watched as colleagues who once doubted me became allies, friends even, drawn to the sincerity and passion that guided every decision. More importantly, I noticed a change within myself, a steadiness, a clarity, and an unshakable belief that obstacles were not walls but hurdles meant to be overcome. Every small success became a stepping stone toward a life that I had long imagined but never thought possible. One quiet afternoon, I found myself back in the courtyard where it had all begun. The sun poured warmth across the marble tiles, and I could hear the distant hum of the city, a gentle reminder of how far I had come. Victor was there, reviewing some documents, and he looked up as I approached. There was no challenge in his eyes this time, only acknowledgement, a silent nod to a journey we had shared in those fleeting, transformative moments. I smiled.